Hello everybody, good morning and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lara Likes Mascara, and on my channel I do a lot of videos concerning my relationship to my makeup collection and to makeup more generally, with the end goal of curating down my collection to something that I love, where every single product in my collection is something that I've consciously chosen to be there and something that I love using. So I've been on this journey for a long time, but I know there's still a long ways to go to get to that point, especially because my makeup preferences are constantly changing and because lots of things are often leaving my collection, but lots of things are also coming into my collection. Although I try not to let that many new products come into my collection because that makes it a lot harder to curate down the overall number of products in my collection. My goal for the end of 2025 is to get my collection down to 125 makeup products, and this is feasible, but it's challenging. It's going to be challenging. I think I'm at about 135 makeup products right now, so I need to get about 10 products out the door by the end of the year. And so as part of this goal, I do a lot of different projects. I do a project pan, I will link that here, where I try to finish off makeup products in my collection. I do a lot of decluttering, and then I do projects like this video here today, which is a blush roulette, where each month of the year I focus on one specific blush and I really get good use out of that blush. I try to figure out if I should keep it or not, if I can pan it anytime soon. And it's basically just an effort to get to know all the products in my collection better. And believe me, this is an effective project. Last year in 2024, I did the same project and I ended up decluttering 4 blushes from my collection. This year has not been quite as effective. I've only managed to declutter 1 blush so far, and I'm going to talk about that in today's video. And then I'm also hoping to pan 1 blush by the end of the year. So total, I'm only going to get 2 blushes out of my collection. Last year I got 4 out, but even if I did not get any blushes out of my collection, I still think that this project is a good idea. Like if your goal is not to curate down your collection, I still think that this is an effective project to help you use all your blushes, because I don't know about you, but if left to my own devices, if I don't set these projects and challenges for myself, I would just use my favorite blush virtually every day. And we don't want that to happen. I mean, you could argue, well, then just declutter every single blush except for your favorite blush. But I like having different formulas. I like having different colors. It wouldn't actually make sense to declutter all of them except for one. But I need to encourage myself to use all of the blushes. And if I find that I really, really don't like a specific blush, then of course I'm going to declutter it. But if it's just that I need a little bit of motivation to use that product, then that is what this video is for. So this is going to be an update on the past 3 months of blushes. I'm going to talk about the 3 blushes that I focused on, how I like them, if I'm going to declutter them, if I made any new discoveries about how to use them, and then I'm going to talk about the next 3 blushes that I will use as part of this blush roulette. So I'm going to be covering May, June, July blushes that I've used, and then talking about my blushes for August, September, and October. So let's get right into it. If you do watch all of my videos, then you might already know this, but I actually decided to declutter Milani Luminoso. I feel like they've mentioned this so much between like short form content and long form content, like makeup and decluttering videos. I did my bi-monthly update here. You can watch that. But yeah, this was my May blush, and I specifically put it in May because this is much more of a like spring summer blush because it is so like coral and glowy. So I just organically reach for this in the spring and summer, but not fall, winter. But after a few weeks of using it, I was like, you know what? Like, this is just not my preference anymore. I used to love this blush and it's very nice. It's a very nice blush. But in terms of my preferences, I don't want a super glowy blush. Can you see like that shine? It's just so highlighty. It's just too much. Now, I definitely got a good amount of use out of this. Like, it's basically not rounded anymore. It's completely flat. So I feel good about the fact that I own this for many years and I used it pretty frequently. Like, I definitely have blushes in my collection that I decluttered last year that I'm like, why did I even keep this for that long? Like, I wasn't even reaching for it. Whereas this one, I actually was using it, but I think it had been a while since it was in my regular rotation, because just over the past few years, I've realized that about my preferences, that I want a matte blush, and then if I want highlight, I'll put highlight on top. And honestly, it was a real relief when I came to realize that I was ready to part ways with it. Partly because my blush collection was a bit bigger than I was comfortable with, and I just wanted to get some things out. But also, like, realizing that your preferences have changed, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to recognize this about yourself, because it means that you're getting to know your collection better and your preferences better, and that comes with being on a makeup low buy, or at least with more conscious consumption. Like, when I was just buying whatever, I would not even consider if a product was something that fit my preferences or not. I would just buy it if it looked interesting to me. And I still have this inclination. Like, I will see products on Instagram or YouTube or wherever, and people will describe them in a way that will be super enticing to me. They'll talk about how much they love this product and how beautiful it is. And then I'll take a second and I'll be like, but I don't even like glowy blushes. I am only interested in this because of the way the person described it, and not because it's something that I would personally use. So recognizing your own preferences is only a good thing. Hopefully I can find someone who will appreciate this blush the way that I did early on when I owned it, but I just no longer feel that way about it. I'm happy that I have at least one blush declutter for this year. I fear this is going to be my only one. Last year I decluttered 4 blushes, and I just think in 2025 I might only be decluttering 1 blush. But as I said in my previous update, I sort of got all of the hard work done in 2024. I cleared out all the blushes that I didn't like, and now the collection I have is a much better collection overall. Like, I already did the first level of culling, and now it's the harder level of culling. So if there's just not a lot of blushes that I want to declutter, then so be it. It is what it is. And maybe that's a sign that I don't need to do this project next year. I might still do it because, as I mentioned, it's good for just getting use out of all of the blushes in your collection, making sure that each of them get a dedicated month, but maybe I won't film it because there's nothing to discuss. I'm not trying to declutter or pan. I'm just trying to get good use out of the products, and that's not necessarily as interesting for a video. But we'll see. I've still got time to decide. Okay, my June blush. This is one that I had hoped I would be able to declutter, but unfortunately, I just like this blush. Like, it doesn't make sense because it's not a great formula. It gets hard pan so easily, but I really do like the shade. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick up any for you, but most of my blushes are quite pigmented. Like, they're just deeper shades, and so I don't have many that are a real builder blush. Okay, you're like barely getting anything there, but it's nice to not have to worry about applying too much. As you can see today, I've got a lot of blush on. The one that I'm wearing today, we will talk about, don't worry, but that's one where I have to be very, very careful with how much I use. And it's kind of just nice sometimes to not have to worry about that, where the issue is not applying enough rather than applying too much. So this is going to be sticking around for a bit longer. I know it doesn't make sense that I'm keeping it because of how easily it gets hard pan. Yeah, it's sticking around for another year. Now for July, I actually have 2 blushes to talk about. One is a cream blush and one is a powder blush. And the reason that I decided to do it this way was because the previous 2 months I'd been focusing on blushes that were just not really my favorites. You know, I just felt like I needed to treat myself. And even before these 2, the one that I had used in April was my Wet n Wild blush, which again is not a favorite. And so I wanted to reach for something that was more fun, more exciting, especially for summer. And so I pulled in 2 blushes, 1 cream, 1 powder, and these I had not used prior to pulling them into the blush roulette. So I'm excited to talk about both of them. One is from Milani in the shade Coral Crush, and the other is from Too Faced in the shade Berry Dreamy. They are both beautiful shades, beautiful packaging, and I actually have both of them on today. You might not think that this would pair well together, but honestly, what I found is that you can pretty much pair any two blushes together. Genuinely, you can do any cream blush with any powder blush, and as long as you are applying the right amounts, it'll be fine. It'll work out. That might be like a crazy hot take, but yeah, I've just never found it to be a problem. I had planned to work on these separately. Like there'd be days when I would use this and then there would be days when I would use this, but sometimes when I'm using this, I want a cream and a powder blush, and the cream blush that's in the bathroom, which is where I do my makeup, is this one. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just do them both, and it's fine. Generally, you can't even see the one underneath just because this purple is such a bold color, but I think I'm going to do this on my hand so that you can actually see what it looks like when I build the two of them together. Okay, so usually I apply this with my Makeup by Mario brush, the double-ended one, but let's just use it with a finger so you can better see the actual shade. It's like a watermelon pinky red. I maybe went a bit overboard. I would not apply that much on my cheek. All right, let's say that that's the blended out blush shade. Now let's apply the purple powder on top. Even though I'm using this every day, the Too Faced is still very much there. Like, I don't know how long it'll continue to say that. This is the shade of my brush because I've been using it so much. So I'm just very lightly patting in there. Usually I just do one pat, sometimes two light ones before I apply it on my cheeks because it is so pigmented, as you can tell. Really need to be careful to not apply too much. I did go a little bit overboard today intentionally because I wanted to do a blush draping look where I brought it up onto the eyelids and a bit on the forehead as well. But, you know, things on video don't necessarily look the same in real life. Like in person, this is even more bold than it appears on camera. But anyways, let's pat that on top of the cream blush. This is hard to do because I can't actually see what it looks like on my hand. And there we go. That is the shade. So they're two very, very different shades, but really the purple just shows up as a pink on the cheeks, and this one also can be blended out to a pink. So that's the color that I get on my cheeks. Can you see that? Anyways, I think that they are both beautiful. This is a nice texture, a nice color. I don't know, sometimes I feel like with blushes, I wish they showed up more on the cheeks like they did in the pan. This and this, both of them, I feel like don't, not that they don't look as bold, but like, you know, my cheek doesn't look purple. It doesn't look like this shade. It still looks like a pink. But I'm sure if I really, really worked it up, and I added even more product, then it would look more purple. Let's do it, why not? So yeah, thoroughly enjoying both of these products, and I'm really glad that I like this Too Faced one because I did have a slight worry that like I would put it on the first day and I'd be like, oh my god, this is such a bad shade on me, it's way too purple, but no, it just looks like a cool pink basically. So love that. Okay, those are all of the blushes that I have been working on over the past 3 months, and so now it is time to talk about the next 3 blushes that I will be using. I think I did mention in my last video that this next blush, I would need to use it in summer because of the shade. It was just so well suited for summer, and this is from Kiko. This is in the shade Sunset Pomegranate. Now, before my blush roulette last year, like before I pulled it in for a month, this was one that I was like, oh, I don't really remember how I feel about it. You know, I think it's just like, it's whatever. It's a nice blush, but I never reach for it. And then once I started using it, I was like, why do I never reach for this? This is so nice. Nice texture, but above all, the color. The color works so well on me. I'm really looking forward to having this super, super bright pink in my daily makeup bag. I think I could even use this as an eyeshadow some days. I just remember really, really being pleased by the shade, and I'm excited to have that again. So I made sure that I would have it as my August blush. Hopefully I feel the same way about it this year as I did last year, because again, I don't remember. Like, I don't know if I've used this at all in 2025 because I've been on this blush roulette and because I've been really trying to focus on each month's blush. So that's the first one. The second one, okay, I hadn't actually decided which was going to be September and which was October, but I think I know just like contextually which makes the most sense. So the two are Party from Tarte and Angel from MAC. As you can see, this is super broken up. Unfortunately, it did take a tumble one day and it completely shattered, which I am pretty sad about. I think I'm just going to try to use it like this, like broken up, but obviously I do need to be somewhat careful because I think there's going to be like little chunks and it could be like a lot more powder than I'm intending. Luckily, it is such a light shade that if I end up using more than I mean to because of all of the like excess powder rolling around, that's fine. But because of that like extra obstacle, it makes more sense for me to use this Tarte blush in September. Firstly, because it's easy, but secondly, because I am actually trying to pan it, and September is going to be a big, busy month. Look at that. I would love to pan this by the end of 2025. I don't know if that is going to be possible. Like, I don't remember, because this is actually my second one. I've had Party before in the mini and I did manage to finish it. And I cannot remember how long it took to get from like decent pan to finished, because it could be 2 months, but it could also be 2 years. Like with powder blush, it's just so hard to tell. But in September, I'm going to be using blush a lot. I'm probably going to be touching up my makeup a lot. I'm not going to be doing a full face twice a day, but I'm definitely going to be touching up most evenings just because of what's going to be going on in my life in September. And this is just a go-to. It's a reliable one. I know that it always looks good. I know that I can't use too much. As I mentioned, some products, it's easy to use too much. This one, I don't have to worry about that happening. And it just goes with everything because it's such a like nice, neutral nude shade. So that's gonna be my September blush. And then this one I will roll in October. My partner and I are going on our honeymoon at the end of October. Well, honestly, it's like the second half of October, and I'm not gonna be bringing this on my honeymoon because I mean, it's just gonna probably break more and end up everywhere. I don't want to deal with that. So probably I should use this a bit at the end of September also, just so that I try to get closer to a month with it. But I guess I do also have to figure out which blush I am going to be bringing on my honeymoon. I had not thought about that, but that is something to deal with in the next update for sure. And I didn't mention, but last year in 2024, my whole plan was to start out with the blushes that I like the least, and then by the end of the year I'd be working on the blushes that I like the most. And I have loosely structured it that way in 2025 as well, although now that I like all the blushes in my collection, it's not exactly the same situation. Like, I do have favorites, but it wasn't as easy to be like, oh, this is my most hated and this is my most favorite, especially because some of the blushes are new. Like, I just didn't know how I felt about them. But these are some of my favorites as far as I can recall, and these are some of my least favorites. So this one, I don't know. I feel like because it's broken, that kind of puts it more in the least favorite category, but I'm still trying to use it up. And I do actually have a bit of it in a smaller container, which I'm trying to use as under eye powder. That's not going great though, because I just don't like light pink under eye powder as much as I like my skin tone under eye powder. So, but yeah, I can deal with that in October, but I think that the next 2 months for sure are going to be really, really lovely, especially because I'm going from like a super bright shade to another bright shade but more wearable, and then to a much more neutral shade. Like I like the variety that I have got here and the order that I have put them all in. Do I think I'm going to declutter any other blushes by the end of the year? Unfortunately, no. But I'm still happy that I've realized essentially that I like my whole collection. And who knows, maybe I will be able to pan this by the end of the year. That's going to be my goal now. Rather than trying to declutter products, I'm going to try to pan this. It is, of course, difficult when I'm only giving myself 1 month to pan this, because obviously November, December, I need to focus on other blushes in this blush roulette. But we'll see how I get with this in September. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next week.